Hi, I'm Gus from Yes We Cannibal. Welcome to this week's edition of Meat Meat.
Hello, my name is Gideon Fortune, and I'm here with
Cindy Wonderful,
of
Wonderground, Scream Club, Chez Fab Arts and Community Project, Wonderground, Rainbow Sugar, Crunk's Not Dead Records. You know, I have a long and sordid history.
Okay. First thing I wanted to get into is I'm a huge food person. I love to eat food. I love to write about food. And I know you're internationally known. I know you went to Europe, and I want to know what are some significant dishes that you remember from your time there?
I remember, I try to eat something like special from wherever we are, if they have a signature dish wherever we are. I'm vegetarian, so that's somewhat limited.
Okay.
But I remember in Rome, they're like, oh, you got to try these. And I, for the life of me, don't remember what they are called, but they look like boudin balls, but they have like red rice in them, and they're delicious. And I guess they're like I guess it's like a Rome thing. Like you can get them anywhere in Rome, and they're known for it.
And you spent time in Berlin as well.
I lived in Berlin for 4 years, and I toured there before that and had a wonderful time. So shout out to Berlin.
Do you have any of the sausages there? I know they're famous for their sausages.
I'm vegetarian, so I had vegetarian Wiener Schnitzels
they
at
have those.
Yeah, what was that place that we went to? We had the amazing Wiener Schnitzels. Do you remember?
It was next to
It wasn't white trash fast food. Oh. Yeah. But they got great vegetarian options in Berlin, everywhere.
Okay. You think they're more vegetarian friendly than they are here?
Yes, they are not vegetarian friendly here at all.
Yeah.
Baton Rouge's version of vegetarian friendly is Impossible Burger. Occasionally you get lucky, Mid-City Beer Gardens, awesome. They have an awesome veggie burger. Veggie Paradise, not Veggie Paradise. That's like in New York, right?
I think so.
Thai food. Vegan friendly. That's what they have here.
Okay,
but
vegan friendly foods.
Curbside has a veggie burger, but that's not a whole lot of wide options here.
Okay.
But I appreciate all of you who are making vegetarian food in Baton Rouge. Thank you, and you'll see me at some point.
And I know you were born in Nashville. Did you spend enough time there to remember anything?
I moved from there when I was like 6 months old to Memphis. So I don't really remember anything before that. I barely remember Memphis. I moved from there when I was 8 to Colorado.
So nothing from Memphis, you would say. Did anything from Memphis shape who you are today? Would you?
If it did, I forgot.
Okay. So where in Colorado did you first move to?
Highlands Ranch, Colorado, suburb. If any of you remember Bowling for Columbine, that was like pretty close to where I grew up. The suburbs.
Okay.
Big time.
And what like places that was there shaped you?
We were talking about this the other night. When we moved there, my family moved there, there was only 2 subdivisions in Highlands Ranch. And so we got to see the whole neighborhood. There was one elementary school, Northridge, where I went, and we got to see the whole town built up from like prairies getting turned into, houses. And I was just surrounded by, there was all these basements that they had dug out that weren't like built yet. So, I mean, that was like a big playground to me, like playing in these like unfinished basements. And it was great. It was a great time. I think it sparked my love for abandoned buildings because, you know, it was just so great. And also, like, you know, I was a skater back then, and if you wanted to build a ramp or something, there was an abundance of building materials available. Yeah, it was a great time.
And what was Colorado like at the time compared to how it is today? Have you been recently?
Yeah, we went, like, was it last year? October of last year. Now it is like super hipster, and just like everyone and their mother is moving there to, you know, because they legalize recreational marijuana.
I know that's the reputation now, so I'm wondering.
And I saw so many scooters there, and like you don't even have to. You don't have to like go out of your way. Well, I went before the pandemic too, and you'll see interesting, beautiful people walking the streets, and all you have to do is just like look out the window of any restaurant or thrift store or anything, like droves of beautiful, creative, interesting people. But when I grew up there, you really had to like dig and hunt and try to find these like hidden gems. But looking back, I think like that was an incredible place. At the time, I didn't know it. At the time, the sentiment was like, oh, we got to get out of here, you know?
And how long did you stay there?
I stayed there till I was 21, and then I moved to Baton Rouge because my grandmother lived here, my sister had lived here, and I thought that like being from a bigger city, it would impress somebody, but nobody cared about Denver. Nobody thought I was extra interesting. Nobody, it didn't work to my advantage moving here at all. But I was out of Denver, you know, so I could say that. And then I had a girlfriend at the time from here, and we went to visit Denver, and she was like, Denver's so cool, let's move here. So I moved back. And,
what was Baton Rouge like back then?
Baton Rouge back then was cool. Baton Rouge, we had the Chimes, we had the library, and Chime Street. It's hard to imagine now, but it was so vibrant and so cool. We had the Bayou that was getting bands from, you know, all over the country, like hip, cool, kind of underground bands from all over the country. And the library was just like punk rock, and kind of anyone could kind of get something going.
The library,
there.
Is that on right by the Chimes?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what it is now.
Blurtish, that was at Wonderground the day I came. They were talking. They met at the library. The two people who created Blurtish
really?
From Wonderground. Yeah, they met at that place that you're talking about.
Oh, that's cool. It was a cool place. It was a really cool place. That was going on, and they had one cafe called Insomniacs that was a 24-hour cafe, and it was kind of like the more grittier kind of, you know, it was cool. You know, it was all, you know, you could have an all-age show there, and it was cool. It was a neat place. I felt like I lived on State Street.
Okay.
And I felt like, as far as I was concerned, that was the place to live, and anything I wanted to do was over in the Chimes area, and it's almost heartbreaking to go there now. I mean, the Chimes is still there. I never went there back in the day. But there used to be a grocery store, Super Fresh, which was like anything but super fresh. It was super stale, you know. Okay. I remember like getting Lucky Charms from there, being like, oh man, how long has this been sitting on it? Like, what? But it was a cool place. I mean, I enjoyed it, but
when did you come back to Baton Rouge? That first time that you came back, what was that like, seeing all that stuff gone?
Well, I had come back many times in between moving back here because my grandmother lived here. So anytime my band was on tour, for whatever reason, like God or destiny always prevented us from getting a show here in Baton Rouge. So Seriously? My bands never played in Baton Rouge. But I think it was to kind of keep it a family, you know, to keep to keep it a family, you know, I'd always carve out a chunk of time to just spend with my grandmother and my aunt, and not play a show or anything.
Yeah,
but
you could always use that break.
Yeah, and it was always nice. So so it was cool, because when I decided to come back, I was like, no one knew me from any of my bands. No one knew me from anything. So I was like, oh, this is a great place to reinvent myself, because, you know, there's nothing here related to anything that I've done, and I wanted that fresh start, you know.
Yeah. And what was the first band you toured with?
The first band I toured with was called Rainbow Sugar. We were a all-girl punk rock rap group, and I used to have a warehouse in Colorado that was also named Wonderground, like, you know, a long time ago. And this French band, Cactus Tribe, they were a techno band, or they're like a cross between a band and DJs. And they had come and they had played a show there, and then they went on and toured the rest of America, and then they had worked their way back, and just happened to be on their off night. They were in Colorado, and they said, well, let's go back to that warehouse. That place was cool. Let's see if they have anything going on. Well, the night they came back, my band, Rainbow Sugar, happened to be playing, and they just like fell in love. They were just like, oh my God, like, you guys are amazing. You guys have to come to France. We'll book you a tour. You can stay with us. And we kind of like thought maybe they were, you know, just full of shit, maybe, you know.
Yeah.
But they were cool, you know. They had good vibes, and they were all the way here touring. So we're like, you know, I mean, and Nico, one of the guys from that group, kind of, you know, clicked with the guitarist or the bassist, Amy Fantastic, from my group, and they kept in touch, and he kept being like, yeah, you got to come out here. But then he was like, well, you buy your plane tickets, you can stay with us, we'll reimburse you. And I'm like, this sounds like a scam, you know, this is like, I don't know, you know. But then, like, part of me was like, well, what, like, getting scammed and going to France, I mean, is that, like, I mean, if it was a scam, wouldn't that still be a good life experience? Like,
for sure, going to
you
France.
know, like, fuck it. So, like, we bought our plane tickets, and we went, and it turns out they did book us a month-long tour all over France. We stayed with them, and we
this
just
was with Rainbow Sugar.
Rainbow Sugar, and we had the time of our lives.
When did you start touring with Rainbow Sugar?
Well, we started touring in America probably in like maybe 2000, I think.
Okay.
2000, but we had just gone up the West Coast and back, and just had an incredible time.
So where was Rainbow Sugar?
Rainbow Sugar,
where was it founded?
It was founded in Denver. I had actually lived that year in here in Baton Rouge, and I had made this rap recording with Jeff, who was part of the Wet Daddy clique, who, like, they were a group of guys who were insanely talented, like, very skilled musicians, but they're kind of like side project. They would take a lot of Robitussin and make very psychedelic rap recordings. Like, that was the thing back then.
Wow.
And both. Both. I never did that. I tried, but, like, nothing happened, you know? So I was like, yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, Tussin Lane, Wet Daddy clique. Shout out to the Wet Daddy clique.
I never knew that.
Yeah, like Tussin. Like, before lean was a thing, Tussin was. I feel like Tussin was like the predecessor.
Prequel.
Yeah, but like lean is like more refined, you know, or more like from a doctor. You need a prescription. Tussin, they used to have a lot of stuff over the counter that would do the trick that they don't have anymore, from what I understand. I don't know. But all I knew is I love these psychedelic rap recordings, and I've always been a terrible singer, but I always craved attention, so I was like, well, I can rap, you know? So I recorded some tracks with the Wet Daddy, with Jeff from the Wet Daddy clique, and then but that was like their secret project, their fun project. They never like performed live, but like I recorded with them, and I'm like, I want to be a star, you know. And I came back. I brought those recordings back, and some girls I had played in a band with before. Amy Fantastic, who I'd played with before, she heard that recording, and she was like, "Oh, this is cool." And so
Amy Fantastic. So when did these names become? When was this?
Okay, so
this is important.
Well, in, I don't know, the 90s, into the 90s or something, I was a drummer. I started out a drummer, and I was in what Maximum Rock and Roll called, which was a punk magazine back in the day. Our one review that we got referred to us as a aggro space rock group trio, aggro space rock. So we were listening to stuff like the Melvins and Nirvana, and I was playing drums, and she was the bassist, and we were supposed to release a cassette tape, but we had to go all the way to my parents' house, which was, 30 minutes from the city where I lived at the time, because they had a computer that I could do layout on, because at this time, not everyone had Photoshop, or you couldn't do stuff online. So I had to go to my parents' house to lay out the cassette cover, and the singer wanted to be called Jonas F. And the bass player thought that was the dumbest thing she ever heard in her life. And she was like, if I'm Jonas F., then that's Cindy Wonderful, and I'm Amy Fantastic. And meanwhile, we also had this experimental, just kind of fun thing that we did. I did all these recordings on my karaoke machine. It was a dual cassette recorder karaoke machine. And I called it Shitbox. And I would do overdubs and just do all kind of stuff. And we had a warehouse at the time, and all these different bands would practice there, so they'd come and I'd have them record and just do all this stuff, and it was called Shitbox. And so for the names for that, my alias was Cindy Wonderful. And then somebody from Westward, Michael, I forgot his last name.
What is Westward?
It was a magazine.
Okay.
That was big time back then. It was I know people don't newspapers don't have the weight that they once did, but at one time, people really gave a shit about this newspaper called the Westward. And I had sent my cassette in to be reviewed, and he called, and he was asking about it, but we had kind of had a little bit of a falling out, so I was being a little bit cagey on the phone, but that just added to the intrigue. And so he ended up, the section of the magazine called Backbeat used to review a lot of different bands, but he ended up being so intrigued with us that he wrote the whole thing about us, because he was like, what is these girls' deal? And so, and I was obsessed. I couldn't believe I got that amount of attention in a magazine like that, and seeing my name, Cindy Wonderful. And so that name kind of grew and grew, and I remember I went to go see a band called the Plop Squad, who I don't know where they are now, but I don't think they made the charts. But I remember I was going to see them at 15th Street Tavern, and I was on the guest list, which was a big deal for me back then to be on a guest list. I felt supremely cool. But on the guest list, I saw that they had Cindy Wonderful written down, and I was like, it just dawned on me that that's what everybody knew me as, and I was like, okay.
It was too good not to stick with it.
Well, and then people would ask me, is that my real name? And I'm like, of course that's not my real name. But then I was like, well, what if it was? What would it take to get to be my real name? So I started researching how to change your name legally, and I was like, that's all you have to do? It was a $44 filing fee, and I had to run it in the paper and appear before a judge, and that was that.
So your name is
my name is Cindy Wonderful since the 2000s, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were in music before you started rapping?
Yeah, I was a drummer and a bassist briefly. Okay,
and you said your band fell out. What is it like for people? You've been in multiple bands, I'm assuming. So, What is it like that people don't see that causes things to break up, or because obviously at one point you're the coolest friends ever. So what is that like? What don't people know about that?
Different people have different work ethics. Different people are maybe not as honest with themselves as others. different people may not be as honest with each other as possible. And like, for instance, I wanted to be really famous. I'm not going to lie. I wanted to be famous. And I think my other friends might have wanted to, but they would never admit it. Yeah. And it's like, we all got to be on the same page if we're going to make it go. You know what I mean? You can't just, like, you all love to see your name in the paper. You all love this attention, but, like,
they weren't claiming it.
No, in a way. And it's like, so just kind of like getting together with people that have kind of the same vision as you, and also that, like, aren't going to leave you at the drop of a hat for some stupid guy that they are dating for the moment, or or whatever,
How long did you want to be famous? Like, was this like forever?
Oh, for like 10 years I wanted to be famous, yeah.
I'm saying, like, was this like something you grew up with as like a child? Like, it was like, one day I'm going to, like, my name is going to be in the paper.
Well, I always wanted to be famous. I mean, since I was like, I was like an MTV child. I kind of came about when that was blowing up. So that just seemed like the coolest thing in the world to, like, imagine myself as a rock star,
Have you ever been on MTV?
I've been on Logo, which is like MTV owned. It's like the gay version of MTV. Okay. So I've been on MTV networks, but no, I've never been on MTV. But, yeah. So, no. No, I don't think MTV is cool anymore.
Okay.
I mean, I like some notoriety, but, like, the kind of fame that I thought I would enjoy, I don't think I would enjoy that today, I think it would be strange, I think it's not all that it's cracked up to be, and, the closer I got to that goal, the less interesting it was, I guess. But I don't know, maybe I just lost my spark. Well, I kind of think if you're asking people's attention, you really have to, like, you should be really doing something really worthy and really deserving. And I felt like I'm not really doing anything that, like, I need a lot of attention for. Like, I don't really care about anything at the time.
Was it like a click, or was it like a gradual?
It was gradual. I started thinking, like, why do I want this attention? What is this about? Like, and if I get this attention, what does this mean? And it just started feeling a little bit like I felt like I wasn't, like, I either wanted to create an environment where people were feeling really great and positive about themselves, or in general, or like they're experiencing something, magical or grounding or something transformational. And I really felt like I was missing that mark. So I'm like, well, if I'm not achieving that goal in this way, like, then it's just attention for attention's sake. And I felt like that's kind of boring in a way.
And where were you living when that?
I was living in Berlin.
To realize that? Okay.
I was living in Berlin, yeah.
How was it? Were you famous here as well as there? Like, would you
I don't
say
know that I was ever famous. I don't say I ever got famous, but I definitely got known I was known to a degree. If you were queer and in the early 2000s, you probably knew us if you were tapped in at all. There was, like, Peaches, La Tigra, and Scream Club, But
what was it like to have, like, that?
Wonderful.
Okay.
It was great.
And how long did that last? Like,
I don't know, because it's so hard to tell when you're in the middle of it. It's really hard to tell. But when we felt the coolest was always in the come up. It was always in the, first time being in magazines, first time being on TV, first time, like, being on tour, first time meeting a celebrity, those kind of things were the most exciting parts of it. But it's hard to tell, like, how known you really are, because, like, one day you could play a show in front of, like, I think our biggest show was maybe maybe a few thousand people.
That's a lot of people.
And our smallest show was like 10 people, and it's like, so it's really hard to tell.
Yeah, to gauge that.
Who gives a shit? Who knows us? Who do we impact? I mean, I knew a lot of people had an awareness of us, but did they like us? I don't know. We were just around,
Yeah. How was the process of making that music? Because was that a genre that you feel like was around and prevalent that you could study when you were learning it? So
No.
if it's something new, like what was that? What was it like making that?
Well, it wasn't around because there wasn't a lot of queers around making rap music, but we just liked music. So we just tried to make music and with whatever tools we had at the time. So I would make some music on this program called Acid, and then whatever producers we knew at the time, we would hit them up, and record with them. And of course, I made 9 of the first 15 tracks on our first album, but really the people really resonated to the tracks I did not make. So eventually we started working with more and more different producers. But we just tried to make music that was cool.
Okay. One thing I saw in a piece of the movie,
Mm-hmm.
And
You Belong, andyoubelongtome.com if anybody wants to see a feature length on my group and a couple others from, Berlin's underground.
You talked about homophobia in hip hop.
Uh-huh.
How have you seen that change since you talked about it, if at all?
I really don't think that. I think there's homophobia in mainstream more than there is in real life.
Definitely.
I think that homophobia, there's definitely more representation now than when we were doing it. Because when we started, I knew, I was queer, and I knew of this other band in New York at the time called Moreplay, which was a dyke and a fag. And I say that with love, okay? I say that with, we can call each other that, But he's still around. The guy, I don't know what happened to the girl, but the guy's still around. His name's Caswell. And they were the only other 2 queer people that I had an awareness of in my group, Rainbow Sugar. And then when Scream Club happened, I saw Caswell again. He was doing his solo thing. And then I started hearing about other groups, Deep Dick Collective and Goddess and She and some others. But there just really wasn't that many, and I feel like there's just probably a lot more now.
Did you realize at the time, could you see that at the time that you were doing something that hadn't been done before? Oh yeah,
there was no other queers doing I wasn't around any queers at all.
Yeah.
My pool was experimental straight girls. I wasn't around that many. Yeah, I could feel that. But also, we got to be part of this documentary called "Pick Up the Mic," and it's the first documentary on queer hip hop, and it documents some of the really early days, and that really helped spread it because the internet wasn't really like it is now. So this movie playing in all these different film festivals and traveling like it did, and we got to play a lot of the festivals with it.
Okay.
Because we were the main band that
in the feature in the film.
Well, no, we actually had the smallest role in the movie of any band. We're just in it for such a short time. It's just we happened to be the only band that was touring constantly. We toured so much. We toured, and none of the other bands, we were living it. That was our identity from morning to night. That's who we were. And the other bands had jobs and stuff like that. That was our job. That was our life. But everyone else, they could come and play some shows sometimes, but we're the only ones who got to make the entire round. So that was cool. So we got to see how it affected people. And then from there, like, queer people started coming out of the woodworks.
Have you ever had a job, like a regular job?
Yeah, I've had so many jobs. Oh my God. I've been a pizza driver, a phone sex operator. I've dug post holes. Parts delivery,
Okay.
Uber driver, Lyft. I've had so many jobs. I worked at a movie theater. I have done publicity and promotion. I've,
What was your favorite out of all of those?
I mean, of course, like, I was just like being me and getting paid for it. But like,
Okay.
And now I'm a notary. So I have a job right now, a regular job right now. I do, anything to make ends meet. Sometimes you just got to do it. I'd love not to have to do that, but sometimes having somebody else be responsible for my time kind of keeps me more, or I don't know, maybe my spirit's been beaten so long, I feel that way now.
Okay.
But I don't know.
How did you transition out of music? Was that something that you decided, or was it something gradual?
I came here, I just knew that I was depressed and I felt uninspired and I felt like I didn't like any of the
While
music.
you were in Berlin?
When I was in Berlin, and I
Okay.
didn't like any of the music that I was making, and all of the lyrics I was making were just a bummer. And I'm like, I don't want to share this kind of music with the world. I don't like, even if I get attention or something, like, this is not what I want to put out to the world. Like, this is a bummer. And I was like, this is not for me. And I came to Baton Rouge not knowing if I'd be here for 3 months. I didn't come here with a plan, but I knew I wanted to learn some skills that I could translate, because I was also broke in Berlin. I mean, I was paying my bills and I never went homeless or anything, but it's just the stress of living hand to mouth. It was just, and also in a foreign country, I was just like, I got to learn some skills. I don't know how to translate this to anything else.
Do you know how to speak German fluently?
Mein Deutsch ist schlecht. It's bad.
Okay. I didn't feel like.
I can say, I can get by, but it's bad.
Okay. And did you start getting into art there? I know you have the Chez Fab.
Oh, yeah. Well, I wanted a music venue, and I just, I couldn't afford one, or I couldn't find one that I could be loud at. But I did have, I had Chez Fab. I had a Chez Fab, yeah. The Fab Lab.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad that you're here. I had the Fab Lab, which was an art gallery in Berlin, and I lived in the back. And but we did have small concerts there too. And I would have loved to have a music venue. I just couldn't find a place that I could afford to do that exclusively.
And you said earlier you like being a fan a lot.
Yeah.
So what was it like being able to give other people the opportunity to play as opposed to playing yourself?
Oh, I loved it. I totally love it. And that's one thing I love about Baton Rouge Locals Only. Thursday nights, 7 to 7:30 p.m. on 96.9 FM or WHYR.org. Catch all the archived episodes at mixcloud.com/Baton Rouge Locals Only. Basically, I play nothing but local music, and I love it, because I remember the first time I was on the radio. It was such an absolute thrill for me, and it's still a thrill for me. I listen to my own radio show. I'm a fan of that, and I love it when people write me and say, oh, that was so cool, me and my family or me and my friend or whatever the case is, when they write me and tell me that they listened and got a kick out of it, because, it's fun. I love that.
When did that start? When did Locals Only come to fruition?
It's been, like a year and a half I've been doing it.
How did you get into that?
When I was living in Olympia, me and my best friend, Sarah Dorbel from Scream Club, who were still best friends, we used to have a pirate radio show. And So it was kind of like, under the radar, not permission from the FCC or anything.
Okay.
Not censored. You could say whatever, play whatever.
Did you ever get fined for that?
No, because the way that it worked is I still to this day have no idea where the tower was. So it was transmitted. I knew where we recorded our show, but that was transmitted like to a computer that was transmitting it to the tower, and it was on a need-to-know basis, and I never needed to know, and I kind of thought that was cool. So if the FCC, occasionally they tried to crack down, but they would just move the antenna or tower or whatever it was, that the transmitter, they would move that, and a couple times they had to change their call letters, but otherwise, I think, did we tune in when we were in Olympia? I think it might still be going, Free Radio Olympia. But I always thought that was fun, and I wanted a way to kind of still be engaged with the arts, even though I'm not making music now, or, my dream isn't to be famous or a rock star anymore, but I still like that creative energy. So it's kind of a way to keep me plugged in and, hopefully giving somebody that thrill or, and also I think it's so easy for people to think like New Orleans is cool or Lafayette's cool or anywhere else is cool or New York, LA, and not really look at the wealth of talent we have here, because we have so many great bands, and I don't even play like everything. I don't play a lot of gangster rap. I play a little bit, if they, because sometimes they might have one or two songs that are, positive. But I don't like to play stuff where people are killing each other or dying or stuff, because that's real here. I mean, people really do that here in, different parts of North and South Baton Rouge. And I don't really play much blues music because I feel like that already has a platform. And I just play, try to play stuff I like, and I just want people to focus on what's here, and that, if you look for it, there's great things happening.
And have you gotten a lot of attention from outside Baton Rouge that you think has helped propel it a little bit?
No.
No, not at all?
I mean, I've gotten a little. My parents listen in Colorado. My friend listens in Sisters, Australia. Okay. And sometimes, and Nikki Click in New Hampshire, and Sarah in Berlin. So, I mean, I got some international listeners, but, I mean, I'm pretty realistic about my listenership.
What was the favorite place you lived in terms of, like, I know you said you were touring a lot, so a lot of it is kind of
just little slices of life.
But what was, like, your favorite place?
Berlin. I mean, that was amazing. I had a blast there. I mean, I felt like so many dreams came true. I got to live in another country, got to live just as a rapper and party promoter and gallery owner. I mean, it was charming. It was also stressful, but it was amazing. Like, you could walk down the street and see the most incredible street art. I mean, I remember walking down the street one time, and there's like they call it an U-Bahn, but it's like a train that runs through the city on elevated tracks in this particular area, and somebody had made these giant cardboard puppets that were just so cool, and they had the ropes hanging down, and you could make it do all kind of stuff, and it was just some anonymous street artist that left these here for whoever wanted to engage with them, and it was just so cool. And I mean, I've seen spontaneous parties too many times to count there, where someone would have a bike with a sound system, and like there'd be a mass, people arriving. One time I saw a really cool event where it was a bunch of people it was like a mini radio station. Like, somebody had like a small transmitter in their backpack, and they had like, I don't know, over 100 little radios, and they had them all in like shopping carts, and they were dressed all wild. And they're like, my friend Antoinette was like, "Hey, we're doing this thing," and so I went down and met them, and it was like you could grab a they had the radios there. You could grab little boom boxes, all different kinds, and they were already like programmed to the station. And so they call it a decentralized dance party, and it started in Canada, and it was a group of Canadians that came there to do that in Berlin. But I just had seen so many cool, interactive, interesting musical and artistic expressions there. I mean, and so much incredible street art. And so much, I feel like parties there have a lot more weight than they do here. It's like they're parties, but they're not just parties for party's sake. They're like parties that make you think, parties that make you, have conversations about things, or parties that can really transform the way you look at your life. And
what are the parties like here?
I mean, here, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's entertaining here, and but like, I haven't gone to that many parties. It has been done, but I haven't gone to like that many parties here that like, except for my experiences at Yes Be Cannibal.
Okay.
But but a lot of people just, they want to be entertained, but it's not like elevating their life. It's like, go be entertained, be distracted from whatever you got going on, let this be your release. But not like, oh, go see something that will like make you, take a step in a new direction or something like that. And also like, are you familiar with like club kids or anything?
No,
that
no.
concept? Well, like in the 90s, you know raves?
Yeah, definitely.
So like in the 90s, there were like ravers that dressed real wild, and like it was kind of like they were art, and it was like dressed to express. And I feel like there was a lot of that still going on in Berlin, or there was when I lived there. I don't know about now, but it's not like just purely aesthetics to be cool. It's like really like there was one party there, Blitz, that I really enjoyed. And it was like every month you knew that people were going to have incredible costumes. And the thought and the ingenuity and everything that goes into like putting this look together, it's not just about looking cool. It's really about this whole creative process and execution and like, wow. And even though club kids were a thing in the 90s, when it was happening in Berlin, people were, taking that, but also making it,
adding layers onto it.
Yeah, and like really, I just enjoy that. I enjoy something that like gives people a reason to like push themselves.
The thing I always think about is when you talk about a city like Berlin in Europe, these are places that have history that's like centuries old, like very, very old, like to BC. But in America, a lot of the people who inhabit the cities currently, their history is sometimes only maybe 300 years. So is that a difference that you've seen, like, from European cities versus American cities?
Yeah. I remember Scream Club played in a church one time that was older than America, and I thought, wow. But I do think that a culture having survived war, having survived, the Holocaust, having survived so much communism or what have you, I think that in a way it is kind of, well, I mean, it's hard to say because I'm from here, so it's hard for me to know like what it is that shapes the sentiment. But I was talking to a woman at a party one time there, and I used to see her at all these punk rock parties and clubs and stuff, and she was a woman who's in a wheelchair. And she had spent a some time living in New York, and it was during a blizzard, and she couldn't get anyone to take her across the street because there was a short staircase she had to go down. Yeah. And she was like, in Berlin, that some neighbors would have just picked it up and carried me down here, but it was like, people are so afraid of getting sued or what, I don't know, but like I couldn't go anywhere. And she's like, that just wouldn't happen here. And I don't know if it's because I don't really know, maybe that's where her particular spot where she ended up, and I don't know, but it made me think about, like, in general, I think, like, I can even think off the top of my head, like, seeing people carrying groceries down, because in Berlin, they have these, like, real big bags from, they're like, I mean, they have them here too, but not, I'm trying to think where I've seen them here, but they're not like grocery bags, but they're big, and they have like 2 handles, and it's not uncommon to see people like carrying one handle, and the other person will be carrying the other handle, walking down the street. And I think, like, I've never seen that here, but also maybe because people don't drive back and forth. Yeah. But I do think that, like, when a city has experienced like a lot of resiliency, you feel it. And
you came straight here to Baton Rouge after Berlin.
I did.
And what was that like? What was that trend like?
Well,
was it as slow as it is now? Was Baton Rouge as slow as it is now back then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Long time, maybe 8. I mean, it's a long time ago now, but it feels about the same. But there was no Yes We Cannibal. Like, there was no Southside Art Center. There was no Wonderground. There was no Electric Depot. There was a lot of things that, like, weren't happening, and I'm sure they were happening because, like, the more that I am around, the more I hear about things going on that I had no idea about. Like, I heard there's some art collective happening on Choctaw, which I've still not seen, but I'm like, wow, there's a bunch of artists communing over on Choctaw, and I didn't know, and they're having parties. Wow, So I'm still amazed at the things that maybe I was just not in the pulse of things.
Okay. What's one thing, if you could tell me one thing that the average Scream Club fan or Cindy Wonderful fan might not know?
Too much to list. Too much. I mean, hey!
Yeah, what's one thing people wouldn't know?
I mean, there's a lot, but, like, I wouldn't give myself away.
Okay. Secret identity?
Yeah.
Okay.
People have a lot of misconceptions about me. People have a lot of misconceptions about me all the time.
Like what? What are the misconceptions?
Man, I'm not even going to go into it because, I don't want to disappoint anybody,
Okay.
I don't want to. Sure.
How did you get from,
Rainbow Sugar?
Rainbow Sugar.
was Rainbow Sugar a queer band?
No, I mean, I was queer, and I sang songs about girls, and, like, they were okay with it, but no, they were actually, the drummer came out as queer way later, but the bassist was extremely heterosexual.
So how did you get from Rainbow Sugar to Scream Club?
Well, I mean, I just felt like, I don't know, I was a terrible communicator back in the Rainbow Sugar days, and,
And that was Baton Rouge and Denver.
No, Rainbow Sugar was just in Denver. I had made a recording when I was in Baton Rouge, and I brought it back, and they were like, oh, this is cool. I was a bad communicator, and, like, things that probably could have been solved a lot easier, like, created huge distance between us. And anyway, I don't know what happened or why it ended. Bad communication, I think. But I wanted to be a rock star, and we had toured in Olympia, and I saw, like, plenty of people making money off of, not, like, huge amounts of money, but, like, I saw a lot of people living off of their music and art, and I said, oh, I want to do that. because I'd
So-
always had jobs.
Yeah.
But at that time, I was like, I want to live off my art exclusively, and I did for like a decade.
With Scream Club?
It was Scream Club.
Okay. And that was made in Washington.
It started in Olympia, Washington, and then
How did you meet your bandmate?
how did I meet my
Yeah.
bandmate? At a porn store.
Wow.
Because and actually I'm not really that into porn, although for a while Scream Club was on several porn soundtracks, several queer,
Wow.
several lesbian, queer, well, not lesbian, because like lesbian was like not us, we were queers. Very big difference between queers and lesbians. I don't know if it's as obvious now, but queers and lesbians are, I'll say lesbian if that makes sense to people, but queer is so much more freeing, you know. It doesn't get, you know, it's just, that's more me, my style. Well, I just feel like lesbian is like tied to a gender norm, you know.
Okay,
And
yeah.
also, what if you're a lesbian, a staunch lesbian, but you have sex with a guy one day? Are you less of a lesbian? No, you know. Yeah, I mean, because to me, it's like, you could be and I saw this a lot, and that's one thing I love about Olympia is like, you would see butch dykes, big old butch dykes, you know, proud butch dykes, and they would go have sexual escapades with like, you know, soccer coaches and shit, you know, and it was all hunky-dory, you know, and it's like, yeah, if you want to do that, like, you're not less of a lesbian, you know, you're still you still have your identity, and that's why I like queer. And also lesbian and gay is like, and bisexual, I never liked that, because it's like, well, I might have liked it one time, but you know, the idea of a bisexual girl, but I don't really like it, because it's saying there's only two genders, and it's like, it's not even up for debate. People are born intersex like every fucking day, you know, and that's a real thing. I'm not making it up to be edgy. That just happens. So it's like honor that like actually people exist and are born like that, you know. And if people want to, and honestly, if people want to identify as whatever they want, like, what does it matter to me? And so that's why I like the term queer, because it kind of can encompass all of that without division and stuff like that.
How did that freedom translate into the music that you made with Scream Club?
Because we were just living it up. We were living our best queer lives, you know. And we were making music, and people were so hungry for music at that time that reflected them, because the internet wasn't popping like it is now. It was harder to get music that, like, you know, that represented you back then. And so for a lot of queers, it was like, oh, they're writing songs that are about fucking girls and stuff like that, and love songs about girls and stuff like that. And you know, and I was happy to provide it.
And you know, a decade later, I got your record for the first time, and I gotta say, it still translates. It's pretty interesting. It's awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
So wait. You're in the back of a porn store.
Oh, okay. So,
Did you do the same video or what?
okay. So what happened was, when I moved to Olympia, you know, I figured I wouldn't go to Rockstar immediately, because like I didn't even have a performance yet. I didn't have a band yet. I just moved there. And what I didn't know before I moved there was that jobs were like, you know, in Denver, like you could just think about having a job and get a job at the time. You know, it was not hard. But when I moved to Olympia, I'm like, whoa, you got to have a resume to be a dish dog? You got to have a resume? You got to have a resume to work at Kentucky Fried Chicken? Well, I don't know if they had a Kentucky Fried Chicken, but you had to have a resume. And I didn't have a resume. And, but I heard, like, I'd met you know that girl I told you is really cool? Her name's Amber Bear. She's a fitness person now. I had ran into her that day, and I knew her from, she was in this band Shotgun One, who I think I'd met on tour, but I just ran into her on the street, and she was like, oh, the porn store's hiring. So I was like, I made a beeline for the porn store. And Sarah Adorable is behind the counter, and you know, she looks cool. She got some blonde bangs and stuff like that. And so I was like, hey, I heard you're hiring. She was like, yeah. I was like, well, what do you have to do to get hired? here. And she's like, you got to bring in a resume or, be friends with one of us. And I was like, well, hey there, my name's Cindy Wonderful. And, tried to be friends with her. And I thought she was joking. You have to have a resume to be a porn clerk? You got to be kidding me. So, but we ended up talking for like an hour. I gave her a Cindy Wonderful button, and she was making a movie called WHYR, and she gave me a button. We exchanged buttons, and that was really cool. And so I went home, and I made this like most amazing, I think it was a piece of art, resume, and it was like a picture of me with this like sledgehammer. I had yellow hair and looked pretty wild back then, and it was just kind of like pasted my qualities: reliable, hardworking. Had my number, which was 1-888. No, not one. It was just 888 Rock was my telephone number, and I gave it to her, and I guess she did give it to the owners, and she just watched them run it through the shredder, and her heart was breaking. But it turns out she had actually seen me earlier that day. I guess I stood out. And when you're new in Olympia, Washington, especially if you're queer and not like super femme, which I was a tomboy, surprise, surprise, you are like a hot commodity. I'd never lived anywhere like that. It was like heaven on earth, because I like feminine women and they like tomboys, and I was like fresh pickings there. And so she had seen me, and she knew it was like a limited time, so she better act quick. I didn't know that, but anyway, we ended up meeting at the porn store. I didn't get the job, but we fell in love, and we started Scream Club. 6 months later, I think we had our first record deal with Tiny Sensational Records. And we toured for the next decade, and she's still my best friend, and she's the woman that's weird to say. She's my best friend, and I bought the church with her.
Okay, and what's going on in the church right now?
Oh, gosh. At the moment, we feed people every other Sunday there with a group called MORE, which is Meals, Outreach, and Resources.
Are they based in Baton Rouge?
Yes. Markel Petrie started that, and, shout out to her and everybody, Courtney, and everybody else who's been involved in that at any point in time. And but the goal of it is to be a venue, art space, performances, theater, music, upstairs and then downstairs, to rent it out to different organizations, nonprofits, or organizations that would somehow uplift the area. So do all that by night, and then by day, classes, workshops, support groups, make it a very, interesting art and community space, kind of like I'm doing with Wonderground. But
is it the same goal for both?
It's pretty much the same goal, but that is a little bit on the back burner until I get Wonderground off the ground.
Okay.
But Wonderground is going to be eco-friendly, all off-grid. At least we're going to try to do that as far as we can take it, for as long as we can do it. We have a bathroom build. So our bathroom is going to be a composting toilet that actually turns waste into biofuel that runs a hot water heater, cook stove, other heaters. And that's this Sunday for anyone watching in the Baton Rouge area, May 30th from 10:30 a.m. till sundown, or as much as we can get done. And thank you to Home Depot, who supplied generously the materials for that build. And also Generarc, I wanted to give a shout out to them because they are donating a solar generator so we can get power from the sky, and I am so excited to unbox that and see how that does. And yeah, I'm excited because this whole idea of turning waste into energy and discarded materials, and I think it's pretty magical.
It sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, you got to experience it with the generator.
Firsthand, yeah.
But, man, how cool it would be when it can come directly from the sun. I know I'm excited about that.
You know when what's the estimated time for that?
I don't know. We'll see how this bathroom build goes, because I know we need a bathroom to have a successful event.
True.
Yeah. It should be a little bit nicer than the last time you were there. It's a real ceramic toilet. It looks just like a regular toilet, because I wanted to appeal to people who maybe don't care about composting or anything like that. And even if you don't care, it'd be cool to experience it and be like, oh, well, actually, I don't have to sacrifice anything if I want to be more mindful. The only thing different is it has a pump instead of a flush. But otherwise, it just feels like,
Regular toilet.
Yeah. It's weird to be talking about toilets and bathrooms, but hey, it's part of the deal.
It's part of life.
Yeah.
Any final remarks?
Let me see. Oh, shout out to Unity Baton Rouge, who's also contributed to the community garden. Also Swampfly Communities, if you're watching and you want to check them out, they're handling the community garden in the back of Wonderground, and that's Swampfly Communities on Instagram. And, oh, yes, you can see me in a music video, a really cool music video from Heidi Mortensen. She's a Danish musician and composer. She's amazing. And she has a brand new video coming out very soon called We Have a Body. And you can see me dancing in it.
How did you end up in there?
She is somebody I know from Berlin.
Okay.
She booked us a show, Scream Club, a show in Berlin many, many years ago, and she was my second best friend. I don't know if she's still considered. You're still my second best friend, Heidi, if you're watching this. Also, shout out to Nikki Click. Well, I was always hanging out with Heidi and Sarah at the time, who's my best friend, so I'd always call Heidi my second best friend. But Nikki, don't worry. Like, you're still my best friend too, just for the record. And if anybody doesn't know Nikki Click, check her out. We have a retreat coming up. I don't know when the dates are, but she'll have an art exhibition at Wonderground once the power and Nicole Johanna. Yeah, her art is Nicole Johanna. Nikki Click, she's got a new album coming out. It's going to be good. Her niece is like 12, and she has an amazing album out as well. Emma, shout out to her, Emma Gottschneider. And, I don't know. Is there anything else I should mention? Jeez. Gosh, will I go home and say, oh, I forgot?
Yeah, that's the time for that.
I know. What?
Who's the people that did? I know you wanted to talk about the people who've been collaborating to build up Wonderground, and before and after pictures for Wonderground is not just your sweat equity, which you've done a lot of sweat in there, but the grant that.
Oh, the Pollination Project. Oh, yes. Thank you so much. The Pollination Project. We just got a micro grant from them. They're an amazing organization. If you don't know about them, check them out. Also, Awesome Without Borders. That's another one that's supporting. Both of those organizations support interesting things around the world, not just in Baton Rouge.
Do we have time for Cindy to say how Yes We Cannibal and Cindy Wonderful came together? Is that allowed?
Yeah, we have time, but I also want to come in because for anyone who hasn't, or is not already familiar, I just want you to introduce Wonderground. Maybe following. What is Wonderground?
So Wonderground is a eco-friendly. Wonderground, 14th and thank you. I'd be kicking myself. Wonderground is very exciting. Probably the only reason I should even be here right now, because probably nobody cares or knows about anything I did in the past. But what I'm doing right here in Baton Rouge, super exciting. 14th and Myrtle Walk. 1439 Myrtle Walk to be exact. It's Baton Rouge's, might even be Louisiana, I don't know, but it's for sure Baton Rouge's first and only premier, totally off-grid art and community space. Music, art, studio space, community garden, markets, all kind of good stuff happening there. And you can be part of the process. We're on Instagram at wonderground.br. That's wonder, like WONDER, ground.br. And you can see the transformation. You know, we've had a few things happen there, and it's really raw. And I've never been part of the space or seen a space that took you on this journey of, you know, being like basically from the rubble that we started from to kind of in stages. We got a roof now. We've got like, you know, we've been taking steps, and part of the whole concept is to show people that like you can have an imagination. You don't have to look at some place as like an abandoned, like nothing, like trash. You can really look at those places and you could turn them into something magical, which is the goal of this place. And so many places it's like you just see and they look all nice and you're like, how did that, you know, I could never do that. But Wonderground, you see, yeah, you could, you know, because I'm just an average Joe, and you know, and it's coming along, and you know, so you're all invited. So that's wonderground.br on Instagram, or Chez Fab Arts and Community Project.org. That's probably too much to spell, but if you want to try, it's CHEZFAB, Baton Rouge.org. Oh man, Yes Be Cannibal. I just started seeing I remember. It was Miss Clara. Shout out to Miss Clara. She brought this flyer to work, and it said Yes We Cannibal, and it was in this cool font, and I could tell, ooh, that's cool. Ooh, these artists, okay. And she's like, Yes We Cannibal? Don't that mean they eat people? And I was like, yeah, it does. Intriguing. She's
And that
like,
intrigued you.
It did intrigue me, and I was like, what is this? And, you know, she had gone on the website, and she was like, I don't know about that. And so I went on the website, and of course it was like very elusive, like not a lot of information on it. I was like, God, I love these people already. Like, what are they doing? And every time I had been by here, like the lights were off, like there's no clue what was going on, but it was close to Wonderground, so I was like, what is this? And then, you know, a little bit more and more kept, you know, coming out. Or I think I went to the Instagram, and it was just like one picture. And I was like, this looks awfully wholesome for like, Yes We Cannibal. Like, is this even the same people? Like, I was just like, what? Are they growing stuff? Is it what is it? Is it arty? Is it, what? I just had no clue, and I just fell in love with the intrigue, you know.
Yeah.
What you mean?
You were saying they got that piece in the paper because they can figure out.
Oh, yeah, in the Westward.
Oh, yeah.
You were edgy and elusive with your charm.
Yeah. Oh, hey, it's that guy you took a picture of, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Cindy came home and she was like, I don't know who they are, but I like their vibe, and I think that we could probably get along.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing we share is that, you know, for sure we want people to like do their own thing, you know, see these things transform and what you can build, and then all it takes is a little like desire to do it. You don't have to wait, you know.
Yeah. And I think it's just perfect. We're in close proximity.
Right
We're
down the
like
street.
the same, like a similar spirit and a similar ilk, but like different.
Yeah, you're our sister in arms.
Yeah. I feel like they're different enough where they each provide a.
There'll be no cannibalism.
Well,
Yeah, we
there
wanna feed each
will
other.
be cannibalism.
There'll be no beef. There'll be no beef between the two.
There'll be no beef, but there will be cannibalism for sure, you know. But yeah, I love the cool aesthetics, and I just think it's great, you know.
Yeah, look out, we're all co-sponsored.
Yeah.
We're at the cannibal events coming soon.
I only wish that I would have known you sooner. I wish I could have got you guys in the church space before you landed here. I'm like jealous. I know everything does work, and actually this is an incredible space that you have right on government, and I love that this is here because, you know, the electric depot, in a way, I'm really happy for it, for Baton Rouge as a, you know, like I'm happy that Baton Rouge has this.
Things to do, yeah.
And also, I think it's like great that it's right across the street, because this is like,
It's polarizing.
yeah. Well, it's just like I think about like being new to a place and not knowing a place. When I lived in Denver, it's like sometimes it takes going to a place like that to discover a place like this, It's like, and then you're like, oh, wow, there's this gym over here. And, so I like how all of it kind of works together, It's cool. Yeah.
And now you're here at Yes We Cannibal in person.
Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah. Pleasure to be here. So thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah. All right. Well, what now?
That's a good question. Yeah.